Hi, I'm Erika Sullivan-Pond from Bell Integration, and today I'm joined by Richard Bassett, VP of Agentic at NiCE. Welcome, Richard, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Erika. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, it's great to have you here. So can you please tell me why it is that traditional CX models are no longer suitable for today's customer and business requirements?
I think if you look at the traditional CX and then how it was designed, it was built for a different era.
Yeah.
It was designed for a much more simple era before digital and transformation was such a great thing. Queries that came into CX, they were a lot more simpler. It was across less channels and they were more predictable as well. If we look at the way the world is today and the new era, customer, the expectations they have and the journeys they go on are very different. A customer today may start on the application, then they might have a chat, and that might turn into a voice call. And the expectations of a customer have changed as a result of that they expect you as an organization to understand, to be personalized, to be more predicted in the way that they engage.
I mean, I feel that sometimes as a customer myself, I'm more impatient than I used to be, and I want answers faster than I used to want them as well.
We all do, and that's the reality behind it. And we've opened up, as an organization, or organizations have opened up, the flexibility to give customers different entry points to the way they engage. And that's the big challenge now, is how do organizations have that fluidity across all of those different touch points. And then if I look outside of that, you've then got the labor costs is something else which has had a
rising
dramatic
costs
change.
Constantly.
Yeah, so the human element is a big thing that all organizations we're speaking to are talking about, because costs are rising as a result of that. Also there's a high attrition in the contact center as well. People forget those sort of hidden costs, which is that recruitment, the onboarding, that, the challenges that new agents have when they come on board, because they're having to learn, your business, your brand, your personality, which means that they might be having less conversations per hour than what a fully ramped agent would be having. They might be putting more customers on hold, etc. So it's a big thing that people are talking about right now, is like, how do we drive that new era so that all of these things are more predictable, because we can't just have a spike and then just throw more headcount at it like we used to. The other big challenge we have, though, and we're seeing in the traditional CX, is that a lot of people who are coming in now, and they've inherited this traditional CX, and what that is a lot of silo technologies which have been, loosely coupled together. And again, that's driving that fragmented experience as well.
Yeah, I suppose it makes it difficult to run on multiple platforms, and for the agents to not know where to look and to where to get the information to help the customers from, especially when they're coming in from different
That's exactly
areas.
it. Yeah, multiple systems that don't talk to each other right now. Agents are flicking between one screen and the next, or having different environments they're having to go into. It's there's a number of touch points which can lead to failure, which is the challenge.
So can you please tell me, what are the biggest operational challenges that businesses are currently facing with their CX environments?
So if you look at the traditional environments that organizations have today and they're trying to move from, the problem with those traditional environments is the heavy burden that's being put on the human agents. I mentioned earlier that the humans, they're having to go through something like a billing dispute with a customer and having to go through 6 or 7 different systems just to get that issue resolved. That's a big challenge, but they have to do that with consistency. They have to get the outcomes. They have to understand customer sentiment. They have to deal with vulnerable customers. And right now they haven't got the capabilities for that to be proactive and brought to them. Everything's reactive in that world. And as an operation, therefore you don't understand it. You can't predict that a customer might be churning. You can't predict that a customer's vulnerable in that way. We're relying on the humans to do everything. And that's really the big change of what's trying to come about right now, is how to move those that old era of CX into this new world so that we can address some of these challenges.
I suppose traditionally as well, when you do finally get to speak to an agent, does the agent pick up on your frustration straight away? Do they pick up on how, like, your emotive you're talking about and everything in that conversation? Do they know that you're frustrated at that point, that you're put through to somebody?
Yeah.
So how can that pressure be put on the agent to understand who they're speaking to and offer that kind of personalization that they might need?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big pressure to be, on the front line, as an agent in the contact center. One of the reasons there's, heavy, attrition in that world is because, if you're a customer and you've been on hold for a long time, you get through to that agent, the poor agents, taking the brunt of all of that frustration. It's not the customer's fault. They're just trying to get their issue resolved. It's not the agent's fault. They've been dealing with, a queue of other inquiries that have come through. And now, their job, they're under huge pressure to hit their KPIs to get through to resolve that customer query, whilst also hitting a number of other, policies and procedures.
So how does an AI-driven platform fundamentally improve on your traditional CX experience?
AI is just helping the world, and it's helping the world, the CX operations from both an agent point of view, but very much from a customer point of view. And again, what that leads to is the business having huge benefits on the back of it. So we talk about, if we think about what we just talked about, which was how reactive the traditional CX world was and the infrastructures that are put in place, the burden that puts on agents, the fact they have to be reactive versus proactive. What AI is now doing is it's helping, for example, the customers, because now they've got agentic experiences, the bots, let's say, or the AI agents at the front hand. That means that customers can have their answers resolved quickly, easily, hopefully 24/7 on whatever channel they wish to do. And you know what? The AI is continuously learning, and it's understanding, actually, should a human be involved in this conversation? We're not here to remove humans. We're here to actually help the customer, to also support the humans, on the other end of it.
So to improve that customer journey.
Absolutely.
To make it more seamless.
Yeah. And then if the conversation does have to go through to a human, then we want those humans to be equipped and, with the right information. So whether that's real-time guidance, knowledge recommendations, having a customer profile, understanding the sentiment.
So making it a more personalized experience as well for the customer, as well as making it more efficient for the agent to deal with that.
That's right. Everyone's driving down, trying to be more efficient right now. So if we can reduce handle time, if we can reduce the number of repeat conversations that have to happen from a customer about the same, the same query, that has huge benefits on the bottom line. And that's what every organization is trying to drive right now.
Absolutely, because I suppose that the shorter the time it takes to deal with something, the better it is from the business point of view. And also, presumably, the happier the agent is if they're not dealing with the same kind of small challenges all the time, and the same questions.
Yeah.
It's giving them a chance to deal with the more interesting and specific inquiries.
That's what we're trying to do. With the customers we work with, is how do we take away those FAQ, those mundane questions, and make sure that the AI agents are answering those. And actually, when we find out that a customer needs to speak to a human, we hand it over, but then we support those humans. Again, if they're still going between different systems like they were before, how do we bring all those into a single pane of glass for the humans? So they've got the right information when they need it. We can guide them. We can detect those vulnerabilities we talked about earlier. We can give recommendations of processes to drive down, and we have that consistent approach. On the flip side as well, we've also supporting the supervisors. So again, think about the team leads and all the other people in the organization. Where should they be spending their time on coaching and having that automated quality, etc.? That's what we want to be, helping. So
it's quicker for them to get the information and to see what's been going on within a call and within an inquiry.
Yeah.
To train and upskill the staff where needed.
Yeah, many organisations, they might be, monitoring 3% of conversations that come through and doing quality against them. What AI is enabling is the fact that 100% of conversations are being analysed, being monitored, and it's giving the coaching plan specific to a group of people, to individuals, and it's really pinpointing where those supervisors should be spending their time.
Which presumably makes for a better work environment for everybody in the contact centre environment as well, because they're getting more coaching, they're having easier access, resulting in less attrition that we were talking about earlier as well. It sounds like it could be quite disruptive adding AI into your existing contact centre. So what steps can organisations take to prevent that disruption?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Every organisation now wants to implement AI or accelerate the journey they're on with AI across CX. It's a great place to start if you haven't already. The challenge, though, is that everyone's trying to think about doing it as a real big bang in many organisations, and sometimes they're missing what's the value they're trying to get from it, the outcomes. So the recommendation we always have is to look at what is the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So making sure you're getting some incremental benefit, whether that's the customer side, whether it's the agent side, whether it's the business side, but making sure there's something that's really tangible, because that's going to give you the business case to continue that growth afterwards and to get the scale that most organizations are looking for. So,
what would you recommend to prioritize then in that environment?
well, it probably depends on where your highest friction points are right now. So, we're seeing a couple of main areas that organizations are looking at. One is, making sure they've got, those AI agents, in the forefront to manage every single inquiry that comes in. That could be to understand the intent, to drive the routing, and ideally to obviously have that containment to handle those customer conversations where possible. But as I mentioned earlier, that agent augmentation is really critical right now, because a lot of conversations are still coming into a contact center on the voice world.
Yeah.
So if we can take some of those away with AI agents, then the ones that still go through to the humans, giving them the power and the tools to make sure we're resolving those queries, we're onboarding them quicker, and making sure that the supervisors are also getting the information they require. To me, they're the two areas that we're seeing the biggest sort of priority on.
So how do you do that without the disruption then?
Yeah, so in the old world, and what many organizations are having to do right now is they're having to go and replace everything. So put in a new telephone system and add all those AI capabilities on top to have a real end-to-end.
It's expensive.
It is expensive, but it's more, the time to getting that value is just so far down the line. We're very fortunate at NiCE is that we have something called Engagement Hub, and it allows us to put the AI capabilities on top of any other third-party ACD environment. In fact, we've just been through a big journey with a financial services customer recently, where we've added the AI agents, on top of their existing ACD. We've added the quality, the analytics, and also the agent augmentation as well. So getting all of the AI value within about 90 days versus what would have been probably 12 to 18 months before.
Much faster return on investment and proof of value for
really good return on investment, time to value, and again, they're getting that AI, value, within the year, and that's
without having to rip everything out beforehand.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Yeah. So by adding Engagement Hub into an existing platform, what kind of additional data and does the customer get, and that they wouldn't have had before this AI platform put in?
So by having the AI capabilities added, the incremental benefit is huge from a data point of view. So before they were very reactive, and they would be, having to do a lot of manual work to go and understand what those customers are doing. With those AI capabilities that have been added into their environment, what that's now doing is it's saying, hey, we can now look at the human conversations that are taking through, the AI's understanding, who are the best humans, again, the best outcomes, handle time, sentiment, resolution, customer satisfaction, etc. And it's making recommendations to the AI agents, and it's building those AI agents off the best human conversations possible per intent. Similar, it's then giving the best answers to the humans. So if a conversation does reach a human, then they're handling it in the best way possible with the efficiency behind it. So it's just taking it from that reactive world into much more of a predictive world, but also by leveraging what great looks like and replicating that, which is great scale, it's great coaching, and everything in between.
So all the good things that we're talking about that AI brings, but on their existing platform with a little bit of an added bolt in.
Absolutely, in really quick time.
And it sounds like a really good way, like a natural step of enhancing things and transforming and kind of starting that AI transformation journey without that big disruption and risk.
It's a game changer. Again, it's, if you want to go and rip out and replace the whole, platform that you have in place, that's usually an RFP. That could be 6 months of work, then a 9-month deployment, and then it's like for like as the starting point, and you add your incremental benefits afterwards. We're just saying, let's just keep with what you've got and put those incremental benefits in today.
Just make it better.
Yeah, exactly.
So Richard, we've spoken about the traditional CX environment. We've spoken about the benefits of adding AI into that environment. What we haven't spoken about is the risk of and the risk of not embracing this journey now and delaying it. So if a business decides to delay this journey, what would be the impact that they would see?
I think most organizations right now are looking at AI. They're looking at AI to transform their business. And, if they're not, then those operational costs that we've spoken about, they're going to continue to increase. As costs in general get higher, that's labor costs. that attrition is going to keep going in, and that's going to have a big impact on the bottom line. So number one is we want to drive those efficiencies. The second thing is that your competitors are probably looking at AI or doing AI already. So you don't want to be a laggard. You don't want to be behind the times. You want to be ahead of that. You want to be giving the best experience to your customers so they don't churn. And then the last thing is we do want to empower the humans, the agents, on that front line, so they can be more efficient, they can have a better experience with the customers as well, and they can resolve more issues. So they're the three areas for me is, really key that every organisation gets on this journey.
Yeah, 100%. No, I completely agree with you, Richard. And thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate you coming and sitting and talking to me today. So thank you.
Thanks, Erika.